Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining me again. I love that hard cut. Like, at some point, we probably should figure that out. A little transition. Like, every week, it's just like, dun, 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 cut. So, anyway, thanks for joining us. The whole purpose of the live show is to get you involved. In the spirit of that, in the spirit of getting the audience involved and other perspectives, friends and colleagues, I have an exciting announcement in the queue out there in the digital green room in the ethos of StreamYard. We have Ricky from Just Another Day TV, so we'll bring him in. But on the docket today, we've got a busy one because we are probably approaching the end of the world. Not today. Today marks the beginning of the end of the world. Now, first topic is Reid's out here giving a little let's go Brandon spirit, dropping F-bombs and a dialogue about our good old dementia president. The second topic is Texas is beginning to mobilize against the federal government. Tensions are tightening. And then finally, Elon Musk successfully implants Neuralink into their first human subject. Things are getting spicy. That being said, I can't do this without my crew. Let me introduce my good friend and my co-host, David Cunningham.
Hey, it's good. Hey, it's good to be here. World War II or the Civil War II could start at any point. What better place to be than on the Rethink Tank here? And also, your girl, your woman, Taylor Swift, had a great weekend.
Yeah, the witch delivered.
Sunday. And Alex, who's our Travis Kelce to our Taylor Swift? Brian.
Oh, I'm so honored with that title. I can't wait for this war to begin. I mean,
Touchdown
Super
King.
Bowl. Yeah, go outside, be active. Let's go.
As we bring this in, Brian's gonna get the next video ready. Let's bring in Ricky. Ricky, let's say hi to Ricky because we got Ricky in the wings there. Ricky.
Hey, it's an honor to be here, man. Thank y'all for having me on. Salute to the boys. Cheers to the boys.
Salute. I'm drinking 1776 because we're kicking off. I mean, what is more the spirit of the day? The revolution.
Yeah. Well, I'm sipping on Blanton's because it's my first show and I don't drink it often. So I open it up.
Good stuff, I see.
I'll open it up for
Ricky's out here popping a collar.
No. It was discounted. It was 25% discounted. 25% discounted. So,
I love it.
Spiritual.
Hey, out here horse riding. All right. So that being said, Brian's going to bring in this clip. You know what's funny? We were talking about it before the episode. Ricky, let me know if you relate to this. No one in here even knew who Joy Reid was. And now we've talked about her with two topic titles in the last 3 weeks. First, she's saying Oklahoma's overrepresented by white people.
Iowa.
Was it Iowa?
It was Iowa.
Iowa. See, too many people. Then today, she's caught dropping F-bombs in a cutscene with a hot mic in regard to Joe Biden. Here, Brian, can you play for us?
Yes, sir.
Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another fucking war. Still trying to kill the deal. He bragged about blocking progress and said, please blame him if it fails.
Yo, so I love this is a conversation about the border, like she's reporting about the border, and then it's just Biden like, we're gonna probably have to secure the border at this point. She's like, yeah, while you're starting another fucking war, and it's like on a hot mic. MSNBC slipped up on this one.
Tell me how you really feel, Joy Reid.
Should I go for the second? Or what do you got?
Well,
Ricky?
so that being said, yeah, and as you get the second one up, what's funny is, okay, what are they reporting on? The border, but there's a bigger dialogue to be had here, and it's that we're probably marching right into the beginning of World War III. So for those that aren't aware, there was an attack on military soldiers, a military base in, well, 3 soldiers were killed, but dozens were injured in a drone attack on the border of Syria and Jordan. So in retaliation of that, Biden is preparing himself for a, retaliation attack. The interesting thing is he's planning on doing it regardless of the approval of Congress. They're going to attempt at the charade early on, but it's looking like, and Brian, I'm going to hope you kind of watch Twitter or the news live as we're kind of going in, maybe refreshing, because I'm assuming things are going to happen as the evening evolves and definitely into the morning. However, we're going to decide to retaliate. So before I get into that, okay, even David's over here trying to correct me. I mean, Jesus, David. He's over here trying to get on me for how many casualties and the situation in Jordan, or the border of Jordan and Syria. But you know what? I'm not the right person to describe what happened, right? Because I'm not paid by millions by the White House, hundreds of thousands by the White House to be the voice of the White House. So can you take us, Brian, to video 2 with Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, as she describes to us kind of what's going on and maybe why we need to be alerted to an attack that we need to retaliate to.
But I will say our deepest, obviously our deepest condolences go out, and our heartfelt condolences go out to the families who lost three folks who are military folks, who are brave, who are always fighting, who are fighting on behalf of this administration, of the American people. Obviously, more importantly, we lost those souls.
Hey, White House, pay me. Pay me. I could speak much better.
So much better. That'd be a sight to see.
But now, I think my autism wouldn't allow me to lie, so that's why they won't pay me. But at the same time, woof. Talk about struggling. 3 men, 3 folk, 3 dudes dead.
She didn't do her Sally sells she sells by the seashore. She didn't do that prep before she started. And you can see why they need to do that.
But even if she did whether or not she did enunciation practices, she did not know what she wanted to say. Like there weren't words for her to say. She had nothing concocted of like, this is what I'm trying to describe. And here's the truth. It's because they know deep down they don't need to describe to us the events. It's like, we're telling you we need to go blow up. We need to turn the people over there, the sand people, into glass. Hey, why? We don't need to tell you. 3 folk, 3 dude, 3 dead guys. Like, to me, I'm like, what are we? I don't know. Ricky, what do you think?
There's so many BS coming out of the White House for the past couple weeks. She's been fumbling. She's been getting fumbled so many narrative for the past couple weeks since the journalist asked her about the school problem with immigration in New York. Since then she's just been fumbling her words and fumbling her words. Her words.
Not the most qualified press secretary.
It's a lot of pressure on her right now, so I don't know.
I do agree with that.
Maybe she have to step down. Don't they change press secretary 3-4 times?
Not this one.
They had Jen Psaki before her.
Republicans did.
Well, I think Trump had the most. I think they had 4.
Keep it fresh.
We did have the circle back lady Jen Psaki.
Yeah.
You're right.
And then one of Trump's did actually become governor of Arkansas?
But can we also agree there's something funny to the fact that the press secretary was tweeting as Joe Biden, but actually on her own account?
Yeah.
I mean, that's funny. That speaks to the fact that, no matter what you feel about mean tweets, at least I knew it came from the orange man.
That's true. A covfefe could only come from the fingers of number 45.
But piggybacking off of Ricky's point, Brian, if you could take us to the next clip, who better to decide if we should turn the whole rock into glass than this guy? He was just in Minnesota on the 25th, Thursday, this past week, speaking to the good people.
Beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder why it's called.
They all laugh.
It's like he's doing his own rendition of his own poem.
I just love. Are they laughing because like at him, or are they pretending that was a joke, like a zinger? Because there was nothing coherent there.
Probably did have the
Sounded
applause
like he
sign
had a
going.
stroke.
New mixtape dropping by Joey B, bro. New mixtape coming, Joey B. He's falling in line with all the mumble rappers. You know,
Let's go.
he's
Let's
falling
go.
right in
Let's
line.
go, B.
He's following the mumble rappers. To me, it made complete sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mumble Roombas.
Yes.
Only thing I understand about brew, I only understood brew.
So let's kind of evolve the dialogue. It gets a little crazy. We're about to enter a really interesting time right now. The borders are being flooded. We're going to get to that. But I want to, in the focus of Joe Biden, if we recall, Xi Jinping, the president of China, was recently in America meeting with the president and his administration in the hopes of building understanding and diplomacy.
Yep.
What's funny, though, is San Francisco, literally covered in so much of their own poop, has a poop map. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Ooh, I am unaware of this.
So they have a map, like an app that you tag where there's poop, human feces around, because there's so many homeless people and such an issue in San Francisco. This happened about 5-10 years ago, and the joke about the poop app is that it's funny because it evolved to a point where the whole map was covered, like the whole map of San Francisco. So what's funny is when Xi Jinping, so you have a homeless problem. In fact, such a problem, your whole city's covered in poop. But the second the Prime Minister of China comes in, we are able to clean that bitch up instantly. Zip tight. All right. Hey, perfectly clean. So the question here, one, you didn't really fix the problem. You moved the problem, but you cleaned the city up and you changed the situation. So business owners that had to deal with double-decker homeless buildings in front of them and feces, they had to deal with it. But the second a dictator's come to town, we perfectly clean up the area. Now, you ask yourself, this is a big deal. We're meeting, this is a big meeting. And we got a dead guy that doesn't even know where he's at doing the diplomacy, the negotiation for us. What happened? What were they talking about? What could you possibly talk about? You definitely were talking through him to somebody else, but what was the conversation? Yeah. So when the White House released what they talked about with Xi Jinping, there was one thing that stood out to me more than anything. A lot of it's negotiations. All right, we're going to stop, getting in the way with embargoes and stuff, around the Chinese imports. A lot of benefits towards them. And really, one of the only things we negotiated back in return was, can you please just promise us you'll stop pumping fentanyl through the Mexican border? And China's like, maybe. I like the suggestion. Maybe. And we're like, okay, we cleaned our poop up and we said we'll give you all our money and we'll work with you and diplomacy. And they're like, yeah, maybe. And so I don't know if you saw, there's a whole movement right now. There was some politician that was doing a seminar on fentanyl and this problem at the border and how China is weaponizing it. They're the producers of it. And I guess I've never watched Fast and Furious, but I guess this is kind of the premise of it, where they literally are watching the fentanyl made and sent to Mexico, distributed and across the cartels at Mexico through into the American border. And again, Cold War, this is how you kill us from the inside. You got a little cancer that you've got us addicted to or that you're killing us with. And so I say all of this because it feels like we're bleeding from all corners. And it's because we're being run by a dead guy, which means he is not calling the shots. And the deep state itself, ooh, trigger term, is calling all the shots. And so here's the scary part. Even when everybody's just trust the system, they've got your best interests at heart. And at the time at which there's nobody to check them, just a dead guy, and they can do what carte blanche, whatever they want. You've got drugs coming through the border like crazy. Now we're going to get to that. Texas is ready to go to war with the federal government simply because of their lack of protection and respecting that authority and duty that they have. And then in these situations, like, they're going to look at this, and when this becomes the pivotal moment that instigated World War III, they're going to look at probably the Ukraine event. They'll say, yeah, there were tensions, like whatever, border tensions across the world at the time. But the thing they'll point to is October 7th. They're going to say that incident in the Middle East triggered a major tension, that rippled effect, and that increased our presence, which then led to this orchestrated attack. There's belief that that was an attack orchestrated in conjunction with Iran, who we have been fighting with, like, through other agents, right? Like we would intervene in other countries just so we could, in retrospect, fight Iran. And this will be the trigger point. We'll go to war with them, who is a country with nuclear weapons, and the BRIC nations will be forced to intervene, and we are going to watch a dangerous snowball effect. And that, so I think domestically we're split, and internationally we're ready. We're also spreading ourselves shallow, and, like, again, we've been in a silent war with Yemen for the last decade.
Well, I think with the Yemen thing on that part, it's mostly we're doing what we do with Ukraine and Israel, just providing weapons to the Saudis, be able to just basically commit genocide to Yemen.
We're blowing up weddings. That's a genocide.
Oh, absolutely. We're providing the weapons. I don't think we're strategically really doing much. We're just providing. We're allowing it to happen. We're not vocalizing it. We're not sending a whole lot of news. There's a lot of genocide going on in Yemen, but you don't hear too much about that really almost ever at all. And I think part of that is just the United States government just kind of made a deal with Saudi Arabia way long ago, probably even during the Obama years. Say, hey, you don't mess with us on our petrodollar. We'll let you kind of get away with some of this on this end, and we're just not going to say anything, because we have South Africa suing Israel for genocide over the Gaza Strip and Palestine. We're not seeing that for Yemen.
Africa's doing that?
Yeah, South Africa sued them on the world stage. I'm not 100% sure how
that's wild.
What the authority is on that, but they went ahead and sued them. Say, hey, you're committing genocide.
Court,
they kind of are. Let's be honest here. They're doing a little genocide. So
talk about kettles that are black.
Oh,
so my goodness.
If South Africa has the gall to call out Israel, they're a member of the World Court. Well, the World Court put out an arrest warrant for Putin, and they were going to let Putin come to South Africa for a meeting and not arrest him. I don't remember if he ended up showing up or not, but they weren't going to arrest Putin if he showed up there.
It's my issue with these kind of this world government conspiracy theory when we start going to, like, well, the elites want a world government. They're going to start doing that for, like, United States and some of these other places. Like, these more kind of Western societies are going to probably band together and want to be a little bit more uniform in how they approach things. But when we look at, like, South Africa, when we look at, especially Russia, China, some of these other countries, like, well, I don't want to follow your rules. I'm going to follow my own rules. That's when that's going to have like, who's actually going to be the world government, who's going to be the monopoly of authority amongst all those countries. I don't think you're going to have a consensus at all, unless you're going to have the United States start bombing everybody, in which we're going to really get to some squirrely events once we start doing that.
Well, the UN's kind of supposed to be that, but then Gurgat mentioned the October 6th or 7th, I can't remember. Yeah. Israel attack. Well, now the UN employees were caught up in that. Like, they were part of it. So UN is supposed to be our uniting thing, and then you got that going on.
Well, seeing again.
Well, the United Nations is only for the people. It's a club. It's essentially a club of countries. It's not.
But it's supposed to be where we can come together to make that. That was what the dream of it was. And now you got UN employees assisting in an attack on a sovereign country.
The goal, the spirit of it is a global moral compass or police force.
Prevent World War III.
But really, you alluded to it perfectly. That's how they sell themselves. But the reality is they're just a club, and they can try to facilitate peace or agenda however they wish. But to Doug's point, like their actual intervention, like their effect, it only goes as far as they can enforce it or people are willing to allow. Like, again, no matter how much
useless.
Well, no matter how much you want to enforce a warrant against Putin, what'd you say?
Yeah, the World Court put out a warrant on Putin.
Okay, so you want to go grab a Saudi prince or the richest person on the floating rock in space, Putin. Why is he the richest? Because he's a dude that owns a country. Okay, so if you're going to go after the richest dude on the planet, your authority in doing so only goes as far as your ability to do it. Like, again, in a courtroom, right? We're in a courtroom. Your authority to take another human being and put them in a box only goes so far as you have the physical ability to accomplish that, right? So you have security bailiffs, guns, tasers, the whole nine. And again, if you don't have the force to commandeer a Putin or enforce your will, like, again, Genghis Khan had just as much global authority as the UN.
We're not even members of the World Court, man.
Well, but I'm just saying, insofar as their ability to enforce that, like Genghis Khan was enforcing his will. He was the Judge Dredd of the world, and it worked until it didn't.
Judge Dredd.
There you go.
Yep.
Dread. And I dread it.
Ricky, what do you think?
Well, it's just all for show, man. All for show, because South Africa is not about to invade Russia to go get them, or the UN is not going to come together to go say, let's go get Putin. So it's just all for show,
I agree with that.
Also, on the yeah, that's it. That's what.
Yep. All right.
Well, so here's the thing, though. 3 dead guys in a show. There's dead guys.
They're dead.
So, like, here's the thing. I understand the world is their stage, but, like, you know what else I was thinking about? I was driving, listening to kind of the news on this, and, like, another aspect to it is, okay, we lose half a paycheck every 2 weeks, and it goes to the system, and the system's supposed to provide health benefits, right? Mental health, all that stuff. Okay, they fall short. You're supposed to plug the holes in my road. Okay, you fall short. You're supposed to keep the peace. You're supposed to, okay, you're getting it, whatever. All that being said, part of the deal, and really, I didn't even want this or agree to it, but it being forced upon me, I'll take advantage of it. You've taken all our money and created the most expensive military period, like ever to see this floating rock in space. You've spent the most resources on it. Okay. I don't like that. I don't really agree with 80% of our military intervention and our global choices in how we exercise that. But if there's one thing that comes with that, it's like, you ever see movies of like military movies or like actual clips of us in a foreign area? Like people, other militaries that align with us, like other alliances, find safety in the fact that terrorists across the world will kill them, but not us. The last thing you want to do in Kuwait is kill an American. You do not mess with us. Turn everybody else into glass, but you know where the line is. You do not mess with us. And so there's something to 3 guys gone, and there has been a standard to this point, and that is 1 is too many, prepare to meet your maker. And that being said, we're there. So I have the same knee-jerk reaction as most, like, oh, God, the dead guy's going to do a rash decision. He's the last one. You want to make that decision, and the last thing we want to do is make a decision that propels us even further into military conflict. At the same time, though, a line that has never been allowed to be crossed has been crossed. And I feel like if we're going to be spending as much as we are for the sole purpose of being the one that can't be messed with, then when you're messed with, action is necessary. I don't know. Can you ground me?
Well, I think we've only really seen. So you're kind of thinking, hey, we have the most expensive military in the world. We have all the toys. We have everything we could ever want. Really, and we haven't really let this Ferrari run. We've never really opened up the throttle, just go full go and see what.
Well, I don't want to go 100
really
miles per hour and just crash into the wall called nuclear war.
I think we tried in Vietnam.
Well, we tried it. So in the Gulf
I don't think
War-
we did. I think that was trying to go full throttle with 2 tires off the thing, right?
Okay, what about Korea then?
Half the country was
the UN
out the
force
door.
there.
Well, so our military is significantly more sophisticated than it was in Vietnam or in Korea. The Gulf War is
Dude,
probably,
these guys were drone attacks. Like, we're in a totally different world.
New age.
Yeah,
Like, grass people are not in this one.
Let's go back to George H.W. Bush when we had the Gulf War and we really just let it go. It didn't last very long. It was months, and that bitch was over. We were Desert Storm was not a forever war.
Mission accomplished.
It ended fairly quickly, and that's
we saw, he's dead.
so what we currently do is just kind of pussyfoot around. We don't, if we're really gonna go, if we're gonna go all in, go all in. But right now we're occupying, we're having bases all over the place. We're just kind of being a nuisance more so than really seeing what happens. It's interesting when we start.
Well, we're a nuisance because Israel is calling for us to come rile shit up.
Well, that's the other thing. But I think this goes back to kind of what you were saying too with the proxy. So Israel's a great proxy for us to just fight Iran, fight some of these other terrorist organizations, and really I see this as just emboldening them. The more we fight, the more they fight. And it's just this back and forth until eventually we have genocide. And then that stops it pretty quickly. Well, no, the United States people, the government, no one really has an appetite for genocide because A, once we have genocide, we're done. And then B, once we're done, I can't fund a war anymore. Like, well, the country's glass. It can no longer exist. So there's no one else to threaten our democracy. So, well, you'd have to go somewhere else and threaten democracy, and the American people might catch on. Or we just kind of just keep it going, keep toying with them, and keep playing with them. Because I don't think really the United States, outside of maybe some rare exceptions, we really didn't lose a battle. In Vietnam, we never lost a battle. A battle we initiated, we never lost it. We lost the war just because we really didn't want to take the necessary steps to really glass the whole place. We're trying to preserve our ideal of democracy, get rid of the communism, and at the same time trying to win this war. That just didn't work. Here we're, I guess, trying to keep democracy. I guess we're just trying to, but there's no goals. And I really don't think we have goals anymore. It used to be with Iraq, we'd have a set goal. We'd have a set point that, hey, we want to make sure these people here live the standard that you can live in the United States. And we're just not seeing that. It's not going to happen. And we noticed that as we left. It just went into chaos right after we left. So what are we really doing outside of just pretending we want to be here and kind of spending more money than we really need to on this? What do you think?
I like that point. One thing that you kind of trigger in me is when you point out how what we're doing right now has no goals. I think there's twofold to that. It's either we created a military industrial complex when we had goals, and now the cogs of that machine want to keep turning and we don't have something to keep it going. So we're just looking for shit. Is there a wedding in Yemen? Kill them. Is there sand people in Iran? Get them. Did somebody poke my Jew friend? Obliterate. So like now we're just itching for somewhere to go. It could be that. I want to hope for the sake of like the fact that there's hope in this thing, that's the case. Because what I do think it is like you bring up Vietnam. Dude, Vietnam was not full go because Vietnam, we were half out the bag. Like we really, half of this country, and that means half of the politicians truly did not want to fight that war.
But we had no,
and we weren't in a war for a purpose.
But we drafted. I mean, dude, if
we drafted,
we wouldn't have drafted.
It was the last war we drafted.
We wouldn't have dropped more bombs.
But it wasn't
even
than
every other war.
And again, it wasn't even for a real purpose.
Yeah.
Nothing was accomplished. We were just there to raid poppy fields.
To prevent communism as well.
No. That's the narrative that was sold to us. But then look at what happened. What was actually the goal and mission that was or was failed to be accomplished? There wasn't any. There wasn't kill Saddam Hussein. There was hold this line. I remember being taught it in grade school. North Vietnam versus South Vietnam, and we're holding out the commies. Well, you lost, and it didn't kill us at all, actually. In fact, it had no effect, period. So when you look at all of these, is it that we were being sold the bullshit to keep the machine going, and we ate it up? Get those Viet Cong, and now we're just out of bullshit to sell, and they're like, hey, they're still buying it. I don't even need to slap a phony logo on it. They're still buying it. To me, unfortunately, at least what's everything that's led up to this point, I believe that to be the most likely, that we were able to fool everybody into going into unnecessary wars, fooling us into thinking there were goals, like Cold War. What? Nothing came of it. It was just tension that unnecessarily stalled. It was a stalemate. So that all being said, I'm of the belief that this is a machine we started in falsehood, and we've run out of falsehoods to create, and we just got to keep the machine going. Brian, you got a comment?
Ricky wanted to chime in.
Ricky.
So, all right. I kind of feel bad saying this, but as a foreigner, right? I love America. I adapt America. I love the culture. I love the U.S. But is it okay if the U.S. go into a isolationist mentality where we still keep our allies? You know what I mean? There's a lot of deterrent going on. Everybody had nukes. Japan is the third spending in the arms. They're third behind the U.S. now. So can we just be isolationist, focus what's going on at home, keep the trade going, because we all interact. We need parts from Taiwan and this and that from here and there. So keep the peace by just focusing on what you got going on at home and trade.
I'm gonna give it to
Stay out of everybody else.
I agree with you, Ricky. I want to be a little more isolation. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be the world cop. However, we got ourselves in a bit of a sticky situation here where we are the world currency. The only way we can continue to be the world currency is to essentially just assert our will over countries that might not want to be that way. The only reason we're able to spend, essentially this deficit spending over $1 trillion a year over what we bring in as a government, and to maintain this lifestyle without, rampant inflation. We've seen some inflation, but hyperinflation would happen if we are no longer the world's reserve currency. That's the issue we're running into now. This is a house of cards. We stop asserting our will. We stop doing everything. We become more isolationist. We take the pre FDR approach and just say, hey, this isn't our problem. We're here. We're doing our own thing. That no longer works. Not with our current financial system, the way we have things operating. So we, unfortunately, to live the way we live right now, we have to be involved. I don't like it. You don't like it. I'm sure you don't like it either, but it's oh boy, it's our politicians got us in this mess. And once this first card slips out, boy, it's going to look ugly.
I got to hand it to David, because that was a truly beautiful answer.
Oh,
and really
sound like a politician.
Right?
That was really good.
It was, and an aspect that I didn't even think of. So one thing that I also want to further drive home with David is part of his answer alluded to us remaining the world currency.
Yep.
And that is a play on the global arena we are currently losing. As the group with the monopoly on the world currency, that stronghold is slowly slipping between our fingers, between positions taken in Africa, India, and across the Middle East, where others have used us as the petrodollar. And again, there's other instances where America is no longer the world currency in certain countries. And that's important because, like you said, one, our lifestyle, but also there is again, this is something I've breached before. Everybody hates America because they had racism or slavery at a point.
the fact of the matter is that was something that went on for 2,000 years. And we were the first group of humans to have a moral compass and to commandeer the control and turn it away from immorality and breed a whole new consideration in the world where slavery was a symptom of every single society. This was the first to start evolving goodness. And so I don't, as somebody that clearly doesn't have much faith in our government, I still will say the will of the average man and the purpose of democracy to reflect the will of that average man. I think the will of the average man is a good person, and that's the person I would want to trust in balancing the justice and happiness of people across the world. So I respect wanting to become the isolationist mentality that Ricky sold us on. Isolate ourselves from the chaos and worry about our domestic issues. Focus on what's going on at home. As long as there's people getting poisonous water and the infant mortality rate in Detroit is higher than it is in Haiti, that needs to remain our focus. Make America great first. Then, this comes back to the Jordan Peterson chapter 1, clean your room. Because no matter how much you want to make effect in the world out there, you cannot impact other people before you can't even get your own room in order. And there's other symptoms to it too, coming home to a place of perfection, us being flawed man, coming home to a place that's perfection every time makes you want to strive to be the person that deserves to be in that room. But all I'm saying is, listen, you've got rats and everything else. You've got problems here. This poor girl that works for me, she really has not gotten out because of the circumstances of life. She hasn't had the ability to travel too much. She has, but not too much. And she's eager to go to New York City. And I got this little asterisk because it's one of those, you have to go because it's one of the most referenced cities in the world.
It's a great American city.
At the same time, though, you will never want to go again. If you have you gone?
I've gone.
Do you want to go back?
I love New York.
Oh,
City.
You're a clown. And I bet you wear Nike while you do it.
I know people that love New York.
Nike today.
I know
am
plenty
Vans
of people
are
that love
Nike.
New York. People that love going there.
They're
I've
clowns,
never
dude.
been, though,
Nike. New York is disgusting. It's covered in rats, people, and feces everywhere. And again, maybe that's just my disdain for cities, but go to somewhere like Toronto, which is a
it's a great Canadian city.
Yeah, great Canadian city, but it's kind of like the smaller junior size New York City, and it's got people, expats, not even citizens, expatriates from all across the world, and that place, as disgusting it is still cleaner than New York City. So to me, it's one of those you've got a lot of other things that go to some cities even just in Ohio, let alone Georgia, anywhere across this country where it's just, you guys were forgotten. Holy crap. You don't exist. We don't care about you. You are clearly the basket of deplorable our politicians cackle at. So I don't know. There's a balance here. I very much resonate with Ricky's position. If you can only accomplish one thing today, the domestic choice should always trump the international choice. At the same time, though, the lack of international presence leaves you vulnerable for attack, allows other nations that you have an allied relationship with to be influenced, commandeered. You need to keep a strong presence, and we have to respect the fact, okay, where there is disdain, this is my wrapping thought. I'm going to wrap the whole thing up.
Wrap up the whole thing.
My position when it comes to us in a global arena, our disdain is they're the moral police. They can't keep their nose out of shit they don't belong in, yada, yada, yada.
Fair.
8 times out of 10, I agree. At the same time, though, regardless of that fact, everybody's it's kind of like where we're at in America. Defund the police. We hate the police suck. But deep down, you sure as shit don't want to live in a world without police. So, yeah, we got to work on the police. They got to get better. We got to fix them because they're blowing up weddings in Yemen. But at the same time, I don't want to live in a world without them. And deep down, all of you love the fact that we exist. So I wrapping, I appreciate the fact that Joe Biden feels the need to take a stance. I don't appreciate that he's the one taking a stance, but guess what? He's my president. Oh, we're stuck saying that. So I feel like intervention is necessary, but I hope that he's got enough people around him to ensure that we don't have issues. Before we flip it to David, Ricky, do you have anything last that you want to wrap with?
I'm just saying we can stay isolated, but keep our alliances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep the free trade going. You know, keep our base here and there, but the majority of the focus should be at home. That should that be so hard? Like, just keep the majority of focus home. Keep the free trade going. Help out where you can help out. But when people see millions and billions going here and there, and they're suffering at home, eventually they're going to revolt against you. Yeah, I mean, like it's going to create a worse crap in your backyard.
See, I love that answer and that response. That being said, I do want to double down on one thing. As we kind of dance around the issues in the Middle East, like our relationship with Israel, as much as I have disdain for us even being there or our need to intervene and everything else, the reality is this. They are an ally, a very strong ally. They have a presence in the global arena, and they pretty much fund our government, our world. So that being said, it's kind of like being at the bar and you got a crazy friend. Whether or not you agree with the fact that your friend got themselves into some shit, like the second your friend gets punched and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to fight now. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. And if we're going to play upon our alliance for them when we get ourselves into a bar fight, like the reality is their business is our business, allies are allies, and I feel we need to respect that. It's just sad we rip through how many people representing us, broadcasters that like can't keep their cool, and again, I didn't even exist to us until she's making headlines multiple times, and then you have a White House press secretary that can't even, she's speaking gibberish. So like, I also just think we could get a better job at representing these issues, but that's just me. David, wrapping thoughts.
Well, I think in the Middle East we need that style of culture really really appreciates strength, or like the perception of strength. You really gotta wield a big sword to have respect around that region. I think part of our issues within that type of culture and that society is we try to have it both ways. Like, well, respect me, but also I need democracy and kind of let you choose. I think both of those don't really fly in that region. So when we show just kind of an ounce of not even weakness, but not, oh my God, I'm not going to just glass your whole country if you don't fall in line. Now they start acting out. So we start seeing the October 7th. We start seeing some attacks, and they try to push as far as we can go until all of a sudden, we're bombing their country. We're doing a little bit of genocide, but man, I don't like it. I hate it. I hate this amount of genocide that we do try. However, so here be my defense of America is the world police.
Ooh.
So is there any other country? So all the countries that we align with here are, you want to go visit, you want to vacation, like Australia, UK, Germany, Italy, all these places that like, okay, well, we're for the most part pro-America. We want you in charge more so than China. Do you really want to be in charge? You want to be really in control, or be controlled by, the Chinese style of democracy, the Indian style democracy, the Russian style democracy? Is this? I don't think the world really wants that. There's not the appetite for that. If the criticism we have of Israel, they still do have elections. They're constantly throwing their leadership out the window. It's like, well, you're either not radical enough, you're not soft enough, you're not good enough, you're not bad enough. They're constantly doing that. I'd rather have the countries in power empower the people. Ooh. To a certain extent. We're not perfect here. Our bed is not made, but I think our bed's made a little bit better than most other people's beds are. So we can tell, hey, get those wrinkles up, clean your room a little bit. Don't worry about us too much. I think for the most part, I think we got our house in order.
I love that. Yeah. Doug, before we flip it to Bry, wrapping thoughts.
My wrapping thought, going back to the China visit. All right. I can tell you what my mom hopes Biden and China talked about. The pandas.
Breaking.
Stop taking our pandas. Let us keep the pandas
Oh my God,
in the
Doug.
zoo. That is what my mom is hoping for because like she's desperately wants to go to the Atlanta Zoo before they take the pandas.
Well, wait, let's acknowledge one thing. I appreciate you bringing that up because this is how you know China is mobilizing. They will not attack before they get their pandas back.
They gotta get their pandas
And the
back.
second they start, they're like, hey, we want them back. And we're like, but we like them. They're fluffy. And they're like, nah, bring them back. It's like, okay, I think the Atlantic Zoo is going to be a crater here soon.
Yeah, right?
Is there only panda bears in the Atlanta Zoo?
Well,
No,
there
San
are other
Diego Zoo is where I saw a panda.
So we had some, they took back some, but like at least close to us, and my parents go to Florida a lot. Atlanta's right there, so my mom wants to stop in Atlanta.
Well, she should probably do that soon because Biden's
know,
going
that's
into
what I told her.
Iran.
And then you mentioned them cleaning up the poop. Like, dude, remember when they had the RNC in Cleveland? I mean, dude, I worked
How
downtown.
funny is that?
I
That
never
San
felt
Francisco, San Francisco's picking up panda bear poop, but not their human poop on the street.
safe.
Sorry.
I said picking up panda poop.
No, I am.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying the zookeeper is definitely clean. Like the panda's cage is clean, but Main Street, not so much.
But like that, dude, like when they had the RNC in Cleveland, dude, it was clean. The cops everywhere, dude. I never felt safer walking around Cleveland because any corner you looked, there was a cop from some state patrolling the area.
See, I feel safe in Cleveland for World War III because, again, we don't have the pandas.
We don't have pandas. Yeah,
We are not a target.
Clearly
that might be a
not.
sign. If Atlanta, like, all right, pandas shipping out, ooh,
Yeah.
you better be worried.
That's what I'm saying. That's a real
Be a
sign.
little concerned.
Brian, rapid thoughts, comments. What you got for us? Flippity-boo.
I think the fentanyl crisis and the poop in the streets is a real issue. The panda bear seems like a black and white issue, but I'm just gonna leave it there. And Bama Boy has been on a rant.
Oh, let's get it going for Bama Boy.
So he kind of started out with like, we can't be the world's police. And he got a little bit more involved talking about the homeless and how we're not contributing to the funding and the help that they need.
Yeah, but those CEOs that work for those nonprofits still making hundreds of thousands.
Yep. He says Biden needs to be kicked out of office when half of America doesn't agree with the opening of the borders. And he just said, screw it, let them in.
Yeah, well, that would mean
Well,
democracy.
he really went 180 on that one.
Yeah, he did in one comment.
Yeah.
We need to put us end to this. You know
that
what?
a
Screw it.
back-to-back
Just
comment,
throw
or did
it
he
all
have
the hell.
a couple words before that?
We have to take care of the United States before
Apparently,
we
I'm
start.
gold.
Hey.
Yeah, I was getting there. And Ricky says Doug is gold.
Not any of you guys, but me.
US
The
doesn't want no
audience
problem.
is the best.
What would the show be wuthout a Doug?
Man, I'm glad Bama Boy's back.
Brian, do you have any wrapping thoughts besides black and white issues?
Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to this war, to be honest.
I'm tired, boss.
All right, you guys ready for the next one?
Yeah, it's a kicker off here.
Okay. So now tensions are getting hot in Texas. Not because it's summertime, because it ain't that hot right now. It's because the state is beginning to mobilize against the federal government. So, Brian, if you could, first let's just rip it off with those first three clips. Dave, you might want to watch these just to see. People of Texas are not happy. So we had to cut the audio on this one because it had, your patriotic music. But here's all the farmers coming out. This is them at the border. This is literally on a hillside at the Mexican border. Hundreds of tractors, farmers making themselves known. I believe the second one is just more people coming out in, this is at border town cities where they're just showing the people's position here. It's taken a lot of people to kind of bring attention to this because for a while now, this has been an issue that we've kind of hid away from. And then finally, this is just a trucker caravan
where the truckers are coming to show out for the cause as well. What's interesting is, I just want to remind you of the many instances where we've seen this type of deal, right? Right now, we don't have to show them, Brian, but I have videos on deck of what's going on in France. And it's crazy. Maybe we could have Brian show the videos, but they're on the desktop too. But they're literally like, the farmers are retaliating, and there's this huge protest that is not being reported anywhere in America, and they're dumping like tractors of feces and stuff in the cities of France.
You want A, B, or C?
You know what? Honestly, any of them, because we might save them for the Rethink Actions or another.
Oh yeah, spraying liquid manure.
Yeah,
that stuff's nasty. Let me tell you what. Oh my god, you smell that from miles.
Farmer's mouth.
So okay, I bring this up because this is going on currently. I want to remind you about what happened in Canada, right? So there was the truckers caravan in Canada, and GoFundMe and all these organizations took a political official stance in suffocating these causes. And catch the common thread here. What's going on in France, what happened in Canada, what's currently going on in Texas. These are positions made by the people. This isn't some evil organization. In the past where we have these conflicts, it's, that's just Antifa. That's just, what's the Proud Boys. Like, this is just people. The people they no longer feel represented, and they're speaking out, right? They're taking a position. What's going on in Texas, right? So we have a sieve of a border wall. We're just letting people through. That being said, actually, Brian, before I move forward, can you play video 6, Texas 6? This is crazy. This is, if you want to know what the border looks like, this is what the border looks like.
Silence is okay. They let him through. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. America! America! America!
They're just carte blanche, just go right that way. No big deal. And you know what's funny? I don't think I have the video ready for today's episode.
I just saw some on the news about, like, there's video of literally vans dropping people off, just dropping them off at the border. Like,
wait, even better. So let's take Doug's scenario where they're coming up in vans to the border. Now the cartels own just sections of the border. Different cartels.
I wouldn't say now. They've always owned.
Well, yes. But I'm just giving an idea of the current present mechanism in place. Now there are at the border, cartels own different sections of the border, and for you to get through, they're making the money. They'll liaison you through the border. So not only do some of them provide like a service to get you there. And that's not all of them, but at the very least, they're like the troll under the bridge, and you have to pay the troll toll to get into the boy's hole. And we're the boy.
Yeah.
In fact,
where's the boy?
And there's a boy, and I'm
so ever.
Oh my God. So that being said, what's sad is of any of the people profiting from this just hemorrhage, it's the cartel. It's not even us, not even the taxpayers. And again, I have had this dialogue enough times on the podcast, but I cannot have this conversation without acknowledging I want all the people here. I've made the provocative argument that I think we should just take over Mexico. Like, we should just take it over. It should be an extension of America. It'd become the epicenter of the world economy, like we did to South Korea, because it's a developmental economy that we can take advantage of. And all of those people should be Americans. All I ask is that they sign the social contract, pay into the social contract, and pay taxes. So here's the problem. All of the corporations, Apple, Google, I don't know, pick it, Deathwater, they're all going to profit off of the cheap peasant labor of Mexicans, and we get none of the benefit from the taxes because we can't report that we're taking advantage of this practically slave labor. So the pride that I took advantage of in the first section, where in the first segment, where like, hey, we put an end to slavery. Well, did we really, when we're like low key looking the other way and taking advantage of what I would argue is modern slavery, just enough to exist, not enough to thrive, and we're taking advantage of your disparity. Yeah. So I have a problem when the border looks like that. The cartels are the ones taking advantage of the people coming through, and we're going to see zero of the benefit. Only corporations will. Before I flip to David, does Ricky have something?
Ricky.
America's taken from all angles, man. It's sad, but Alex, sorry, it's not just. It's majority of them is not Mexicans, not anymore. It's all of Central. It's Central America, South America. It's like Haiti, Africans. It's not. It's not. I can't even blame the Mexicans no more. I fuck with my Libras. You feel me? I ain't blaming the Mexicans no more, though. But they're trying to sustain it just like us. And if they're shipping them to the border, hey, U.S. is shipping them up north. Hey, it's just all fair trade.
Dude, cheers to Ricky for further enhancing the perspective. The reality is, it isn't even Mexicans coming through the border. It's people from all over Guatemala and other Eastern countries coming to here through the Mexican border. And China's shipping them.
Technically, under our laws, they're supposed to seek asylum in the first country,
exactly,
before they can come here.
Cheers to Doug.
But they really just completely avoid that fact.
So no. So they've completely the legal element of necessity is not satisfied. Is not satisfied because it isn't necessary. Because, like Doug said, for you to go through 32, that's also been a piece on the podcast before. For you to go through 32 other countries to get here means that you do not satisfy the legal element of necessity.
Yeah. And when you claim asylum, essentially a lot of these are not they're not illegal immigrants. They're just kind of in between. They're in purgatory of our government, and we don't necessarily have the infrastructure, nor do I think we want the infrastructure to be able to litigate every single person that comes here with their own asylum story, with their own unique perspective on why they decided to come to the United States. We'll call it the improper way, not through the most illegal or noble of means, but they came through here.
It's the illegal way.
But they're not technically illegal until they're denied asylum. So if everyone claims asylum, they're not illegal. They just need to go through the process. That's the new thing. Prior to I understand.
As soon as you cross the border without going through the border checkpoint, like there's a checkpoint that if you want to come into America, you can legally go to this checkpoint and go through it. If you cross at any other point,
hold the fuck up. This is the fact.
Oh, he's standing up.
No, this is the reality. This is how Democrats work. We are now playing word games. We're playing fucking word games. They do what? They're not illegal because they went to the... No, they are... This is it. Are they citizens? No. I don't give... Are they asylumed? They might be seekers.
They're seekers.
But are they asylumed by the country? No. What's happening currently is they are being processed, given a cell phone, given a stipend of free fucking money, and just sent. Just go. And Texas like, fuck that. Get on this bus. We're taking you to New York.
And now they're complaining about the strain of hosting all these migrants.
Yeah,
okay, is it fair that Texas has been dealing with this for years now, and now just a few barely a year of them sending them to New York, they're complaining, sending them to Colorado, California, these sanctuary places.
Guess what?
And they're complaining. Oh, they have no right to complain when Texas has been dealing with it for so long.
Agree totally. And here's how this is going to be played. I am not about to allow this conversation to be derailed and distracted by the Democrat bullshit that is word games. So let me truly hammer it down. We're not, for the sake of this conversation, of the sake of disarming David's nonsense, we are literally not going to call them illegal for the rest of this conversation. They are non-citizens. I don't care what you could call them, freaking unicorns. I don't care what the fuck you call them from here on out. They are non-citizens. So play whatever word game you want. They do not belong here without paying into the social contract. And again, I double down. I don't care if everybody is given that pass to be a player in the game. The sad part is we don't have the room for the whole world to be here. Okay, David? Okay? all of this can't fit here. So we got to do something. We got to do something. And last point, Doug, this comes back to Google it, not you, Brian. Google it, audience member at home. Go to YouTube. The greatest analogy about immigration. Search on YouTube, Marble Immigration Experiment. This guy does a TED Talk, and he describes how we take 2 million people a year, and he takes a little marble and goes boop. And it's like tunnels of marbles of starving people in all the other desperate areas. And you're saying we need to let them immigrate here to help this problem, the Tower of Marble starving people. But we take one every year. And even if you were to take a handful of marbles and fill it up, it's not going to solve this problem. You're still having a tower of starving marbles. So the reality is, when it comes to an immigration conversation, or even more so, the moral conversation of helping and aiding desperate people, if you truly want to help and aid them, you help them where they're at. You don't give them the fool's dream that, oh, this all can be magically fixed if you just come here, come to Oz. No. You need to make life better where they're at. And so, I'm sorry, to me, I think it's a lost illusion in thinking immigration is the moral savior to people's struggling issues. And again, the whole green moss area is going to fit in that little bit. We don't have the space. All the land is accounted for. And how many of those people are paying to our social contract? Again, non-citizens. All right, now I'll pitch it to you.
Well, okay, real quick.
All right, we get
Sorry,
Doug.
David. You mentioned social contract, and I agree with everything you kind of just went off on that tangent about. Social contract, though, all right? We were a melting pot. And I say we're because we're not really the melting pot.
We're like a salad.
Yeah.
You could pick out every piece you want now.
You can mix it together, but it's not really
right. You want to find the carrots, you can find the carrots.
So we used to be a melting pot where when you came here, you didn't want to lose your culture, but you became an American. But now we got these people who are blank American and blank American and blank American. Like they want to identify with what their culture is, but guess what? They're like 5th generation American and whatever. And these people want to come here, and they want to come here. They really do. But do they also want to assimilate? Yes, into America. Because let's look at, we don't legally have a set language, but it's English. But yet every legal document is set to have a Spanish section. You go to vote on the ballot and it says yes, no, sí, no. Right. Like because of the Spanish portion. And how long until, because we don't have a set language and we don't have these people actually melting into us because we have so many people who didn't come through legally that they aren't assimilating the way they should. That we have to have Spanish on our legal ballot. We're in Ohio. We're not even in the southern border, and we have Spanish on our ballots.
Well, let's go to comments before we go to David, and then I'll respond to Doug. Because
we got
Ricky. Great points. Oh, we got Ricky, dog.
Oh, Ricky.
So I was wondering, how long do you think sanctuary cities are still going to be alive past this election, right? And only way to stop the border thing is for like a 9/11 at the border, like a coordinated attack, people coming through the border. Some, God forbid, some shit like that happens. That's the only way to stop the border crisis, where everyone will be like, no.
Well, I'm gonna let
But
David.
let me. So I guess as far as like sanctuary cities go, I I guess they've happened for a while. This isn't a new thing.
They were sanctuary cities as long as the people couldn't get there.
Yeah.
And then when they started arriving on buses, they were like, okay, game changed.
It's like sanctuary city is always it's a political thing. So you're a sanctuary city for illegal immigration. You're a sanctuary city for, I guess we can call it gun rights. We can do all sorts of different things. So it's really just more of a political mindset. So as long as there's someone that's willing to take in migrants from another country, there will always be a sanctuary city, regardless of how hard the federal government will impose its will on them. So there will be somebody that will have that. But I guess let me say, you're Ricky, in the spirit of your question here, will they be in the same caliber as they are now? I think, yeah. I don't necessarily think they're really going to go away. It's like Denver, Colorado is probably a big one. LA, San Francisco, like the very liberal cities were fairly close to the border. I don't think we're going to, like, when we start seeing Boston as a sanctuary city or Minneapolis as a sanctuary city, when they start coming up at like cold areas, I'm going to start being a little bit more concerned. I don't think even like Portland might be a sanctuary city, but I think as far as like population goes, I don't think there's a whole lot of migrants up there.
Ricky, I'm going to tell you, they're coming for you in Nantucket.
Sanctuary cities, man.
I see, bro, for real. They taking a lot of people here. I'm like, damn, am I gonna have work next year? Or what's going on here?
Dude, if I'm dropping a Palestinian or a Peruvian anywhere, it's your front yard, right now. Joe Biden's backyard, Nantucket. I'm putting it right in Ricky's bench. You got a bench on your street? How many people can I fit on it, Ricky? I'm sending them to you.
Oh no, they actually banned people off the island that don't have places to stay. So they'll get you a boat ticket off.
Are
They're
those
very strict.
citizens or non-citizens?
No, anyone, citizen, anyone. If you're outside.
We got Americans without a place to stay. But
your
hey,
address or your billing location's not on Nantucket.
but there was a Vietnamese lady that couldn't get a chicken bone back home, so we got to get her a place in Nantucket. What do you got for us, Dougie, before I respond to your last comment?
You're talking about sanctuary cities, too. It's an interesting that those popped up during Trump's time, Well, like, apparently they're still okay with it under Biden's administration. So what happened, because our topic is Texas. So bring it back to home here for a second. What happens if all those border cities, or what happens if the whole state of Texas were decide to be a sanctuary state where, we'll abide by certain federal laws, but guess what? We don't want to work with you. So you know what? We're going to deal with all of our own shit ourselves, because that's what those sanctuary cities are. They're like, no, screw the federal government. We want you out of here. We'll deal with everything. We're not going to work with you. So if Biden's allowing these cities, because they started under Trump, really, or at least got in the news under Trump. Maybe they were even before Trump.
They were in retaliation to Trump.
Exactly. So apparently those cities still must have those policies, but Biden's letting it slide, because did we hear anything about them rescinding their policy of being? So apparently Biden's administration is okay with it. So why can't Texas kind of do the same thing? To bring it back to home there for a quick second.
Well, I think they are doing that.
They're attempting.
I mean, they're
Biden's
attempting.
trying to fight them on it. So it's pretty ironic that he'll let cities fight the federal government, but God forbid a state fight the federal government.
So, David, in your response, can you also flush out for us what is happening in Texas, like between the Constitution, like the fight back and forth, the stalemate?
Let's paint the picture here. So, right now, the issue with the standoff at the border between Texas and the federal government. So, under the Constitution, the federal government has control over the border between state and country. So it's unfortunate Texas is right at kind of a hotbed of a lot of different things going on, and I think they are our biggest border amongst a country outside of so like maybe Montana with like Canada, but I think Texas probably has a little bit more square footage between between Mexico, regardless. So there's a lot of stuff going on in between Texas and Mexico, and the United States government has the authority over that. So Texas sued the federal government in court under, I don't know which amendment in the Constitution, but it was one of them.
It was the one about supposedly the federal government having control over the border.
I think it's like the supremacy. I think it's the supremacy clause over the border. So Texas fought, said, "Hey, government, I don't think you're doing what you need to be doing to be able to protect our citizens, protect the people over here. We feel we're doing a bit of a better job over that." So there's a particular, probably about 2 to 10 mile stretch on the Rio Grande where the Texas Border Patrol put razor wire in the river, around the river.
And they also recently took over that Eagle Pass area.
Yeah, and there's a lot of razor wire there, putting kind of their own spin on the border there. So there was several migrants that died trying to cross Rio Grande.
That recent drowning, which technically they drowned, according to the state of Texas, before the Border Patrol, like before the Federal Border Patrol came to them asking for access, and they were found on the Mexican side of the border anyways. That's Texas's side of the story there with that the most recent.
So the federal government wants to come in and take away the razor wire to prevent unnecessary death on the Rio Grande. So the Texas government is not really allowing that. So right now what we're seeing is just a big standoff between the federal government and the Texas Border Patrol on that whole situation. So where we kind of get into that, the Supreme Court it was a 4-3 situation, a 4-3 ruling, where they did side with the federal government that this is their jurisdiction to be able to allow
they originally
them to
allowed it, like stated saying the federal government couldn't, but then they ended up ruling that they could as needed, I think, for like, so I don't think they can necessarily cut down all of it, but I think they did get the allow to the emergency part of it.
Yeah, I think that they get the authority to be able to come in. So right now the big standoff is, well, there's an end date and there's a certain time where, politics aside, someone needs to either do or don't. And that's what we're running into right now. And so we're seeing a lot of support. So the border thing is always a hot topic. You get people riled up over the border. You get constituencies, you get voters, you get supporters, all about that. Like the farmers, they're putting the tractors out. Like I'm in support of border control and border responsibility, so to say. So they don't want the federal government to have that control. So it's a lot of it is more of like a spiritual. We call it spiritual. Texas, hey, I'm going to stand my ground. Government, don't you dare come. Don't cross this line. Government's going to, I'm going to cross this line because this is under the rules of the Constitution, which we all abide by. This is what we want. So that's what we're running into, and this is the crux of the issue. And there's probably a little more legal jargon.
Well,
to go into.
And I really like
to rebuttal to here.
Not even that. I think David did an excellent job at presenting all that. To further enhance the perspective, Brian, if you could play that video. So David was talking about what's going on at the border. Like Texas felt the need to exert their authority and protect their borders. So kind of like an apocalyptic town, they just throw up barbed wire. And here's the media pulling on your heartstrings. Let me through. I got this far. And, it's literally guys crying at the border.
You got that far, but you got that far illegally.
No, it was totally legal. I exchanged.
And
I exchanged legal dinero for cartel donkey. What is it? Mule me, right? Donkey me right to the front.
Guess what? Your dinero doesn't count for U.S. dollar.
It is always a sob story. It's never just some, kind of military-aged male who's, I want a better life here because they have better opportunities.
Of course.
I just want to live a better. They don't say that. It's always a mother and a child. It's
exactly.
A family. It's
stuck in a river somewhere.
It's always of that. It's always of that ilk. And I think if we're a little more honest about who's crossing the border, it's women and children, absolutely. But there's also just men who want to. I don't want to deal with stuff in my country here. I want to make more money in America. That's really it. A lot of it just comes down to it. It's just economic prosperity. Yeah, I think we all agree. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you want. I'm glad you want that. I'm glad you want to be a part of that. But there is a legal channel to be able to do that, and it is kind of life. You were born into a country in which that's not necessarily the opportunity you want to seek, and now you got to seek it somewhere else. There's ways to go about it. There's also ways to help it at home. There's more than one way to be able to solve the issue in which you're having. This is, and I think we brought this up a little bit earlier. If we were to take maybe some of the military might we were giving to Ukraine, Israel, Iran, all these other places, and go right in towards Mexico, because there's not a whole lot of military action in Mexico. It's some FBI, some CIA, some little more. It's more covert ops. It's not obvious American military outside the Coast Guard that is just coming in and solving the issue. Because I think we could solve the issue pretty quickly, and we could have a really symbiotic relationship between Mexico and the United States. But I don't think the Mexican government wants that. If you're the president of Mexico, Alex, and you say, hey, I'm going to let the U.S. military come in and solve all our problems. Do you think you're going to be voted back into office or retain any sort of the power you currently have?
Well, here's the sad part is you probably would be elected back into office if there was a true democracy. The people would probably be thrilled over that. The problem is they're not the ones calling the shots in Mexico, David. It's the cartel. Doug.
Well, no, like we've talked a lot here, but like I feel bad because I mentioned my original rebuttal, and then I brought up the sanctuary stuff, and you've never had a chance to rebuttal, Alex.
Oh, no. I'm going to get to your melting pot, the simulated culture part.
Okay.
But trust me, I have my notes on that.
I just wanted to make sure, because I felt bad because like then I brought up, and then we got talking about the borders.
Keeping the theme of the
on the Texas border.
Right. No. So, okay, we showed the people at the border. Can you now go to the video of Governor Greg Abbott, and he is evoking Texas's constitutional authority to self-defense?
Authors of the Constitution knew there would be times when the federal government would not live up to its duty. And so they empowered states in Article 1, Section 10, the right of self-defense. The Biden administration has really, truly abdicated its responsibility to secure the border and enforce the laws. Texas has a right as a state to stop criminals from coming into our state, to make arrests of those criminals.
So really, there's a legitimate legal stalemate going on, as you were kind of alluding to there earlier when you were talking about this conflict. So this has been a tug of war. Issues going to the Supreme Court. We've got who has control over the Texas National Guard. It's this wild time. It's flat out. And Brian, if you could start queuing up that map, the reality is this: they pose probably the simplest and most corroborated legal argument there could be. I think it should be Texas map. It should be just like through presentation. You should find it right there with the videos too. But the reality is this: when it comes to the issues at the border, yeah, we all want to have a heart. I want to have empathy for the family in the river. But at the same time, you have the federal government. You have a legal duty to protect our border. And whether or not instead of one marble, you get frisky and you double it to 2 and we take in 4 million a year, like, again, insane numbers. To you, that's little. That's insane numbers to just simply double. And so that all being said, I rest in solace knowing that I see an issue here. I see a legitimate reason for Texas to peacock and kind of puff out its chest a bit and check the government. Again, resting in solace, what makes me feel good is when 23 states come out and speak in solidarity in support of Texas. Dumbass DeWine does one thing right, and at least we're amongst them. And there's something to be said about this isn't a personal issue. This isn't an unempathetic issue. This is speaking to facts of the matter. The reality is there is a legal duty for the federal government to protect something that they aren't, and many countries are coming out in support. Scary part is it's reflexive of our team lines, right? Red and blue.
A lot of it is Republican versus Democratic states,
which is scary,
or at least just like majority like county. So if you look in there like Missouri, like sometimes might be a blue state, some depending on the election. You have a few of them in there, but like what I find interesting is like New Mexico, Arizona, and California, the other 3 states that border Mexico, also are not in favor of this. Now, Arizona somewhat surprises me because they've been a red state all the way up until this previous election, and I'm curious why. I think the governor's fairly Republican, or at least fairly conservative, and hasn't come out like in favor of that. Is it the changing population since it's so close to California? Do we have just like more Californians coming into Arizona and just like changing that demographic, or is that kind of a notion within that state? You know, do the people say, "Hey, well, I don't really care. This doesn't bother me."
That is definitely not the notion of Texas.
Well, not Texas, like Arizona. I think Arizona.
I don't know, man. I think the blue jersey wearing representatives are taking that position, but I really do not think the attitudes of Arizona is like, "Hey, fuck it, open this bitch up."
Yeah, so we're assuming that let's like Texas, the people don't want it, but well, what about the states that do want it? Is that like I don't know if we're pricing that into our calculations as far as our conversations go. If New Mexico thinks, "Hey, this is great and wonderful, we're going to take them in," is that not amongst the people for them to decide? It's like, hey, I don't care if our state gets more people, more representation, all that from the migrants. Is this necessarily a Texas issue, state issue, or kind of like a country issue?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a loaded question.
Wait, hold on, real
sure.
quick. Before we continue on that, Brian,
Yes.
comments.
Bboy taking a lot of hot takes over here.
Oh, all right. Give them to me.
That's what we like, Bboy.
Hot takes banner. All right.
Give him the hot take banner.
So I believe if you don't live on the borders, oh god. If you don't live on the borders, you shouldn't get a vote on how it goes. And
ooh, that you know what? That is a hot take. I appreciate that.
I like you, Bboy, but I don't know if that's the one.
I appreciate that.
And he's talking about New York, and how they were in favor of it until all those people started showing up. And then it starts to get a little bit more of a hot take.
Okay. All right. Lay it on us.
He's referring to Mexico, and he's saying the cartels and the government, the police, they're all scared of the cartels and how their country is. And it says
less
a lot.
scared even owned.
Is that a hot take? I think that's really cool.
Says a lot about
Hey, Bboy, not a hot take. The sky is blue.
says a lot about their country, though.
That's true.
Well, I agree. I don't think it's a hot take. I think he's right on the money with that one. Yeah. You hear about how much money is just for this whole ordeal, for the fentanyl thing, or the drugs, guns, all this sort of stuff. And here's the other thing: it does go both ways, because guess what we have is a freedom in the United States that we don't have in Mexico.
Oh,
to own firearms and own.
And they're trying to
firearms.
sue U.S. firearm companies, by the way.
They are. I don't think they're going to get too very.
They're not going to get far with that.
The courts already revived it.
You know what? I want to sue you for suing them.
No, that's the thing. It's like, all right, how can you sue a company for selling a gun to a store, which then legally sold that gun to a person, which then illegally transported across the border?
Wait, why isn't Ford? Wait, time out. Somebody literally took a Ford F-150 and ran through a 6-year-old. Why is that not Ford's issue? Exactly. Right? Why isn't that Ford's issue?
Exactly. U.S. is suing U.S. gun makers because their guns are making it across the border to cartel hands. How is that the gun maker's fault? Unless you have proof that they're legally just sending them across the border. No, I guarantee you it was legally purchased by someone who then is sending like Breaking Bad. The dude has Smurfs that he has buying Sudafed across the state and sending it to him so he can make meth. How do you know that guy doesn't have the same thing going on where he has a bunch of people buying guns legally and then shipping to him? They file off the numbers.
Well, so let me push back.
And to go back. Right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Point. No. Finish your point.
But then we're also talking about all this stuff here, and Texas is very unique. All right. Like, let's remember they had that whole power grid crisis like a year ago. Well, the reason they had that crisis because they are a self-isolated grid. They have their own grid. They don't share with another state, whereas most states are connected in some way. All right. And they have a true identity. The people of Texas are Texans. They're not, they're Americans, but they are Texans. And Texas is the only state in the goddamn country that actually has a secession movement, that actually has members and is constantly putting stuff on the ballot to try and secede from the
except New
wasn't
Hampshire.
California trying to secede
California,
as well?
but New Hampshire
but California
literally
can't
is
survive without federal money because of all the subsidies they give out because of their liberal agenda.
Well,
Texas could
I'd
actually
argue every
survive
state
on their own, I think, because of their oil output.
Ohio is the swing state.
I'd argue every state can't survive without federal subsidies or without the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, but like California spends so much of their budget on like liberal subsidies that the state posts that they live off of that federal fund. They could not survive in their current
don't
budget.
they generate the most
Texas
amount of money of
doesn't have
any
a budget
state?
deficit the same way as California.
Isn't California the most prosperous state as far as just like revenue generating for the government over every other state?
Yeah, but also how much does that state then spend of all the revenue they make on their liberal agenda?
Yeah, and they're supported a little bit by the federal government, but they are.
Alex, your face here, man.
Our
Join
comment section is going wild. And I don't mean like the comment. You all are going off the rails.
We gotta acknowledge
Shatner. What do we got?
Shatner's here.
William Shatner. I feel like the government. I feel like the government is gaslighting us. What's more concerning, them not being able to come up with solutions that make sense or not answering our questions truthfully?
Ooh, all right. What's the questions?
Well, no, what?
No.
That's a what? Okay, read it again so we can digest.
Right.
I feel like the government is gaslighting us. What's more concerning is them not being able to come up with solutions that make sense or not answering our questions truthfully.
Well, so let me dive into this one. This is my main.
Hey, do me a favor.
All right,
dive in.
Oh, all right.
Dive.
So this is I think my main topic here with this whole border crisis thing. I've been waiting.
We've hit the crux.
I've been waiting to throw
hit
this
the
one
crux.
out. So there's a lot of fundraising that comes from conservative movements on the border crisis for the Republican Party, for Libertarian Party, for all these conservative groups. A lot of money fundraised there. On the Democratic side, well, we want free rights for these migrants, we want these individuals. A lot of money gets funneled in through there. Everyone donates. Like, oh, I want these people in my sanctuary cities. I want these people doing my laundry. I want them here. I want them available. There is human rights across the board. There is no incentive to solve this problem the way our politics are structured right now. There isn't. How many years of Republican control have we dealt with the border crisis, and we constantly deal with this border crisis? Do we not forget the caravan, the migrant caravan that came across the country? It suddenly stopped after the election.
Or kids in cages.
They're
still in cages.
They're still there. There's no how many election cycles in a row are we going to get to the point like you're not doing anything for us? You're like, I'm surprised the evangelicals and
it took this long to get there.
The farmers and the tractors. What are you doing? You're supporting the wrong people. You need go to your politician's house. That's where you need to protest. Don't protest in the border. Protest in
and
their house.
How you do that? Send immigrants to their front yard.
They're not solving the issue because there's no incentive to solve the issue. This is always it's kind of like abortion here too. We eventually got to a striking point with the Supreme Court rulings. Prior to that, it's always just been a talking point amongst everyone. Everyone's just squabbling with each other to fundraise until finally someone did something. I may not necessarily agree with it, but they did something. The border, we have done nothing.
Nothing. We've done less.
There's a border wall in one of your videos. The border wall's there. It's not doing a whole lot. People
they're literally running inside
it. Running right through.
The border wall doesn't run the whole border. What's the point of having a border wall if it doesn't run the whole damn border?
It's a
I think that's a fair point.
Canada. I mean, Canada, you could stroll across and walk into Canada and no one knows. Well, guess what? Mexico ain't Canada.
That's true.
It's a cow farm. There's going to be cows outside.
What's the biggest solution we've had other than a couple miles of border wall? It hasn't happened.
Let's build thousands of miles, damn it.
And there's no appetite to do it.
Yeah, because
And
that's
why
to say.
Texas has to take
Have
charge
you
of
seen a
situation.
Cuban raft? Like, what's a wall when you could just make a raft? Like, again, it makes it more difficult, but we're not even talking about the real issues here. I think we need to start bringing the train back to the station.
All right.
Rapping thoughts before we get to anything.
You got a lot of rebuttals.
Ricky,
though.
if I know you're out there in the wing, we're gonna get to Ricky. What do we got, my homie?
Hey, I'm just saying, Mexico has the same problem as well. They're coming on their borders, their shores. They don't have the manpower to will fire. I fuck with Mexico. I don't want to mess up the relationship with Mexico because it's right next to America, and we need a lot from Mexico. That's my little take.
I like that. I like that. Doug,
that's a good point.
I know you're itching to give us your rapping thought.
No, it's not even my rapping thoughts. I've been
Well,
waiting this
whose
whole
is it?
time
Whose
for
rapping
you,
thoughts
for
are-
you
I
to give
still
a
am-
rebuttal to my
Doug,
melting pot.
I need you to understand. I am doing 4D
I love
chess.
you to death, man.
I'm pages ahead of everybody in this room.
That's cool.
And the
I
person
just
watching.
wanted to make sure to give
So-
you a chance with my rapping thoughts. So if that's my rapping thought,
What
I
a
give it all my
wasted
thoughts.
rapping thought.
Okay.
My rapping
Boo,
thought,
Doug.
my rapping thought is I want to hear your thought on my thoughts.
Okay,
Boom.
the melting
That's my
coming,
rapping
coming to
thought.
my rapping thoughts as it takes
I love
Doug
you, Alex. I
3
love you.
times to remind me to also be told the fact I am on top of it. Like a debater, I have every point that needs to be made.
You
ready.
are, but as the audience, I wanted to
the
make
audience.
sure you responded to my comment. All right,
And
like
that-
you're giving all the commenters a chance to reply to you. I wanted
Because
my
you know what's
reply.
funny? You know what's funny? You know what's funny? I like Doug pointing that out. There was one comment that came like in a paragraph following the last episode. And again, I shouldn't even give this clown any attention. Like, this is the antithesis to what Joe Rogan says. Literally, the comment on the last episode, like post it being live, big paragraph. Loud dude in the sweater clearly does not give anybody else, and it would just went in on me. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm
I
gonna let
like
you guys
this
talk.
guy already.
I'm gonna let you guys talk, and then I'll just bring
I don't know.
all
Let
of my
him cook.
thoughts.
Let that commenter cook.
The dude 100% came to David's defense. All right.
Oh,
So-
all right.
I like this guy.
Wrapping thoughts.
Okay.
It's a scary place to be. I also in no way want to encourage instances that lead us closer to a civil war.
Like
I-
Texas secession.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I appreciate being on the side that supports rightness, and I understand that can be subjective.
Can be.
I think in the lens of objectivity, though, somebody is right. Somebody is right, and I do think this one's the right one, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
That being said, this is a severe problem. Immigration does not solve the problem of people's homes being war-torn and dangerous and unhealthy. So if you want to help these people, help them where they're at. I also think it's a phony, it's a faux position that people actually think the border should be open. I haven't met a person. I truly don't think that person exists. And when you push the subject to a clown in a blue jersey, the reality is they deep down are like, well, no, not everybody without vetting. I just want vetting. And you're like, okay, but you're an idiot that doesn't think out facts. So like, let's start how to implement that, clown. Like, what does that mean? That means you need a person in a uniform that is personally vetting that. Do you have enough? How are you going to fund that? Oh my God. Then the Republicans, the assholes with facts, like they don't make my fiction and ground it in reality. No. Well, let's operate in reality. So the situation we face is it's fun to have every cute, empathetic delusion you want to live in, but when you try to ground it in reality, it's a difficult thing. I do want to address something that Doug raised, that Doug has taken multiple attempts to bring me back to. When it comes to the melting pot versus what I think we've become is a salad bowl, right?
And I agreed with you there. Too.
100%. The spirit of this was America was its own culture. And it was a beautiful culture. It was an accepting culture. It was a culture affected by all the cultures, right? But then victimhood became a currency. So in a world where it used to be cute to like, oh, I like that girl put beads in her hair. Well, I'm going to put beads in my hair. Oh, hell no, bitch. That is cultural appropriation. Well, okay, the more we started to guard the melting of cultures, the less we became that melting pot. The more we became a salad bowl where we were a group of individuals versus one individual affected by the group. Dangerous place to be. If you go visit Canada, like I was just in Toronto. Wait, dude, it's here. Oh my God.
No, well, the hey.
Shut up, dog. I swear to God, if you say a word, I'll fucking kill you. All right.
Whoa.
Yeah, seriously, I'm muting you now.
You know, I've been looking at that for a little bit of time.
I have my gay cup. I went to Toronto this year. They love being gay so much that it wasn't even June. It was well beyond June, and they wanted to just go, hey, baby cakes, we're still super gay. So I went to Toronto, and what was cool about being gay in Toronto was you realize, and Toronto, Canada itself, I wish, man, if this wasn't live, I would play right now the video of Trudeau acknowledging that there is no culture in Canada. And a major reason to that is that they're all so spread out. There isn't some unification. I mean, even between the territories, like one's totally French, the other one's totally native, and the other one's kind of modern, but a mix between them all. And they're all speaking different languages, and they're all what's the deal here?
What you want to mute him?
Oh, you're muted. You're 100% muted. So that being said, yeah, because when you talk while other people are talking, then it's literally undigestible. Nobody can hear it. Now you've corrupted whatever you said, and they can't hear us.
Keep going on.
So the reality is, you're talking about Canada. Canada has no culture. Why? Because they're just this sanctuary country. Everybody come here. And you walk through Toronto, nobody speaks a common language. No, and literally Toronto is like the wild, wild west. It's not the perfect example of this, but when you look at it, it's chaos over there. They have a difficult time policing themselves because, again, defund the police. They've taken the liberal perspective, but now it's just all of these people from foreign cultures that don't speak the language, do not assimilate. And because of that, when Trudeau finally comes out and goes, for the people of Canada, there's nothing that unifies them. I'm not a person of Canada. I'm an expat from India. And all I give a shit about is finding enough money to feed myself today and get a little bit extra to send back home. Because deep down, I have no allegiance to Canada. I only have allegiance to the people stuck at home. And that's the symptom of countries that are peddled by expats. So I am fearful the more you become a salad bowl, the less you have a unification of culture. And I don't care what that culture looks like. It does not have to be dip, trucks, and guns. Like, it doesn't have to be your stereotypical cowboy hillbilly. I don't care if it's like, listen, we have tacos on Tuesday. Oh my God, if you were to take a pot sticker away from me, I'd kill you. I love Chinese food. Like, there's music I love, but imagine what this country would be like if we didn't have black culture affecting our music and our style, right? So we can't live without it. It is a pillar to who we are, but also we can't just say, well, now we need to just become that one. Like if you had a salad bowl, you can't just be the tomatoes. You can't just be the lettuce. You can't just be the cheese or the dressing. What makes it something is that we all come together as one. And so I think guarding, appropriations is such a phony, sad way of dividing us and creating more conflict. And more so, I think we need to start pushing back against the narrative and recognizing that it is not a hyperbolic position to advocate for to advocate for a culture. The culture doesn't need to be cowboys, but it needs to be American. And when you start making patriotism racist, well, now it's racist to be in favor of our country. What's the point? What are we doing here? I'm talking about a social contract. Literally, none of this is purposeful. None of it exists insofar as you're protecting all of it. You're not protect. You're an antagonist against it. I'm very distracted by this drunk couch, so I'm going to pitch it over to David.
So on the point of the melting pot, I'd probably argue way back in the Ellis Island days, it was a lot more salad bowl than it is fondue. I think today we're a lot more fondue than we are salad bowl. Because we have to remember, first generation, whatever you come from into America isn't always going to assimilate into America. The things the melting pot areas we love, like the Chinatowns, the little Italies, the little Polish towns, all those little pierogies we have over here, German villages, they all started from first generation something. They all started from the area. And eventually over time is what allowed them to be, synchronized into a little bit more of American culture. I think we can all sympathize if we were to move from one spot to another. I'm a transplant from somewhere to Cleveland. I was never a Clevelander. I was never someone who appreciated the place. First got here, I didn't get all the hype. And eventually, the more I started to live here, the more I started to understand, the more, Cleveland, it kind of rocks. It's a cool place to be. It does. So you have to let these things have time. So we have to remember every second of every day there's a first generation of something legally or illegally coming here, but they do choose to come here, whether that be for economic reasons, mostly it's economic reasons, freedom reasons, all sorts of different things. There will eventually be, I think it's the second, third, fourth generations of what they do produce does meld into the culture, and that's what allows us to be the greatest country we are, to be here. So I think we are, we want this to be a legal process. We want this to be a situation.
It has to be.
It has to be. For like security and for just like the economic prosperity of this country, we kind of have to maybe regulate who comes in, who comes out, and maybe be a bit more pick and choosy than we necessarily were. But America is an idea, not necessarily a singular thing. We do have some singular things like cowboys. That's unique to us. Tornadoes, fairly unique to us. But outside of that, we are a combination of different building blocks from several different places. Remember, we're fairly young. We're one of the youngest countries in the world. China is like 3 or 4 times older than we are as a society, and they still around, they still do things, but they're not quite as I think adventurous as we are, prosperous as we are. We had to let them into the world for them to get to the level that they're at. So we do hold some power. I think we're a lot better than we think we are sometimes, even in this room. So I think that's going to be my little final thoughts on this one. I'll kind of bring it back to the more optimistic viewpoint.
Brian, rapid thoughts.
Hey, my eyes are up here. Where are you looking? I'm going to just leave the comment section as is. I'm not going to bring him into this conversation, but just know that
the comments are wilding.
Yeah, there's some.
Is it an argument or is it a one-way conversation?
It's a lot of culture and sexuality talk about cups and Skittles.
Cups and Skittles.
And others.
I have to read this one a little bit later. Yeah. Is our boy Bama Boy?
Yeah, Bama and Ricky are bouncing off each other.
Fighting the good fight.
Bama Boy. Yeah, I think he's my personal favorite. It used to be Scatner, now it's Bama Boy.
I want to try to fix Brian's camera.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a comment. Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted, Doug.
All right.
Let her ride. Let her go free.
No, I love. So Alex rebutted my point, which is what I wanted. All right.
Keep going, Doug. Keep going, Doug.
Further,
stay on track.
But he talked about like Canada. All right, and I actually had friends from Canada. So like the place I would go to every year for Florida timeshare that my grandmother owned that then we inherited, there were some Canada people there. And oh
Those
my gosh, were they
Canucks.
racist against the French Canadians? Like apparently for a
Okay.
long time,
Yeah.
they'd had some French Canadians as PMs, and then they finally got a non-French Canadian as a PM. And I remember the dude's mom talking about that, and this was like 20 years ago, all right? But like the French Canadians truly have an identity of their own versus the regular Canadian. They truly do. The what is it, Quebec, like the French Quebec or what? And that kind of circles back to my point of Texas has a true identity as Texans.
Good point.
You know, and so like Gergeb mentioned that, and it kind of just brought around that like Texas are the Texans. And like Quebec, they are the French
And they
Canadians.
beat the Browns in the playoffs. So screw them, Ricky.
America is great, man. Listen, we take everything from everyone. Me from Jamaica, a diehard Browns fan, a diehard Cavalier fan. I didn't know nothing
this
about
guy.
football, basketball, nothing. Buckeyes all day, you know.
There we go.
People take things from people. Nothing wrong with it. Whoever's sensitive about it, I'll keep it PG. But you know, America is great, bro. Stop hating on the country. America is great. America is great.
I appreciate that.
You know what?
That's a damn good. And that's the perfect.
Damn, Ricky's just been sending her off home.
Right, and it's a perfect comment to end on. All right, so I hope we don't get cheated on not having enough dialogue on this one, because I'd like to actually thoroughly address this.
Remind us what the last topic is, because I've personally forgotten. Dialogue's been a little. It was a good topic.
So the last topic is how Elon Musk has successfully implanted the first Neuralink in a human being. So Brian, because we had to do an emergency audible and throw my phone up as your camera,
Yes, sir.
I can't read the tweet. So I'm going to need you to go to the presentation mode and pull up the Elon. It's called Elon Musk tweet. And if you could read the tweet to us, please, to kick off the segment.
What that you said downloads?
You should be able to go through presentations on the desktop as Elon Musk. It's literally
I gotta open it up before I do that.
By the ease.
Well, Alex, while we're at least waiting, I gotta say I appreciate you letting me get my points in on that Texas one, because I was the person texting you about the Texas thing weeks ago when this all started.
So, Brian,
the first human received an implant from Neuralink yesterday, and is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detected. Did I read that right?
Sure. So they have implanted the first Neuralink into a human being. And unfortunately for David, it put me with Ricky. He can at least assist me in this. So Ricky, they have officially implanted the first Neuralink in a human being. What are your thoughts? No need to show that again.
Listen,
We're gonna do
it's great for development in society. For people who needs it, is good if it works. You want to be a lab rat? Be a lab rat. You know what I mean? For the greater future, when it's better, I feel like good. You know, people can like paralysis and stuff like that. I hear like it helps them. So where it's needed, put it. Don't enforce it on everyone. I don't want it to be a vaccine shot. You know what I mean?
That just opened up.
Oh man,
David, what are your thoughts?
I'm surprised the feed didn't get cut right there. So, so this comes down to, oh boy, we're on the verging, like the
are we?
The cusp of cybernetics.
40 of them, to be honest.
So this is kind of like the Adderall debate and why it's a prescribed medicine. So in order to keep up in society, you should be able to have it, but if everyone has it, then essentially that's now the standard. Then this becomes the
Right.
haves and haves not. So if you have, so let's say, let's go super duper cyberpunk into this whole deal. Well, now I can run faster. My heart beats longer with all these implants. This is where I see government regulation probably really, really kind of setting the standard for what needs to happen here. Because if this was, have you ever seen Repo Man?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first thought. Actually, coming into tonight, knowing you were talking about that, is I thought, what happens when you can't pay for whatever they implanted in you?
Yeah.
Oh.
So then you have corporate, as much as I don't like the government coming in and, messing up, scrambling my business, I really don't want corporations coming in and also scrambling my business. I hate that even more. Now, I didn't elect you.
I'm not eggs. Don't be up here scrambling.
Yeah. Don't come in here. So this is, oh boy, I don't know if I want to call this a slippery slope, because this could be great for humanity.
It's the beginning of the end.
Depending on how you want to see it, it's the next evolution of humanity. So some of the elites, if you want to look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, this, don't get me started on that. But that's when we start going to the next level. So are we all one? Are we all one person and we all think the same? Well, who gets to choose how we think? Where's the democracy in that? Are we all just Twitter and going through X, Y, and Z and just?
We're not Twitter anymore, David. We are X.
So for X, so let's call X the Neuralink. Is that now society? Would you say society has gotten worse since Twitter's been really active? Some would argue yes, some would argue no. I don't know. There's some good news aspects that came out of Twitter. There's some real just bad cultural takes that come out of Twitter. If we're all linked together in this Neuralink, that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yes. And I think having diversity of thought will be no more. But even more so, here's what's interesting. That position you pose on balance with something that Joe Rogan kind of takes a position on more often than not. He believes all of these human flaws and conflicts will fall by the wayside the second we have everybody standardized with a neural link of some type, because he's of the belief the second we can read minds and people can no longer lie, aka use language and manipulative tactics to hide the truth, and I can just read your thoughts for what they are, it brings a sense of purity. I think there's hope that Neuralink would be so purist that ability would be available, but that's if the technology decides to allow it.
Yeah.
Same technology could give you the ability for us to talk without actually talking, a message to each other through memes in our head. But at the same time, it could choose to not allow us to have pure reading thought ability.
Just like social media at the beginning. Social media was essentially a wild, wild west. There was no regulation, little moderation outside of, frankly, just illegal things going on. And now we're starting to see a situation where certain thought is policed a little bit more than other thoughts, right or wrong, however you want to spill it. There is a moderation that isn't just free thought of ideas. There isn't. It's not the path the way however we want to go. It's regulated in one way or another. And if we're here with the Neuralink situation, we're assuming it's just going to be like that. It'll be just free form of ideas. We're going to come in and out as we please, since we're all the collective. But I think as we've seen, as we come as collectives, there is someone that needs to police, or there's a desire to police what everyone else is thinking, so that we do flow in the way that the authority wants us to flow.
Man, that's putting a lot of faith in the people that are policing that, right?
Exactly.
Dougie.
Well, so I didn't really have much of a thought about the Neuralink before coming, but you're talking about it being able to read thoughts and being connected, as David kind of said there, and everything. And all I can kind of think of is a Black Mirror episode and a Orville Seth MacFarlane episode, where you can upvote or downvote people and their status in
That's
society.
The social credit score.
Yeah. Yes. And I wouldn't have thought about it in connection to the Neuralink until you mentioned of it being able to read people's thought and everyone being kind of connected and being the same. where does that start from? Then everyone thinks you're this, and then all of a sudden in society you become this because everyone is connected in some way.
I like that.
I wouldn't have thought about it in this way, to be honest, until the way, Alex, you kind of talked about the way that would connect people and Elon Musk's view. I would have never connected the two there, because Neuralink's point is to kind of like help people connect their body to just, but like there is that whole other part of what happens if we take it to that extreme.
Right. Well, no, it gets to David's point of like, okay, a kid with ADD needs Adderall, but what happens when somebody that doesn't have ADD takes Adderall? Then they become superhuman, and now that becomes the standard. I like Doug's point because it also raises something that Jordan Peterson touches on a lot, which is pre-censorship. He takes on this position that this over-censorship for too long to susceptible people creates this symptom where there's not only censorship, but that censorship leads to pre-censorship. So I can't say the vaccine doesn't work. Okay, I can't say that. So because of that, now out of fear of the repercussions of saying something you're not allowed to say, something that's censored, you're trained not even to have the thought like, oh, I'm not even going to think that a dude with a cock in a dress is a woman. I'm not even going to think that he's a man. I'm not allowed to even think if he says he's a woman, he's a woman. So like pre-censorship is now even trying to censor the thought before it even comes out of your mouth. That's the scary place to be. So,
and that's like the thing is like when the society where you're voted on or whatever, or judged, you have to pre-think what you're going to say.
Right. So again, if they want to censor a thought, like you're not even allowed to think that the 3-letter agency could have any, negligent, position or I don't know, effect.
Yeah, or you can't even be critical of the company that's providing you the Neuralink. Let's just even go that way. Like what we saw with the eBay people who wrote against eBay and criticized them. The executives were sending them dead animals in the mail.
No. Your meta brain is not allowed to have any thought negative of Bboy.
Yeah, it's got to be company line. Go that. They might not even care if you. I don't like the government too much, but hey, Meta, whatever company would do, the Neuralink company.
Well, and you just mentioned what happens if someone has like security access. What happens if someone with a Neuralink has access to top secret information that is kind of connected to something or someone? Like there's a whole thing with this whole Neuralink and being connected or something. Like someone sees something and that gets transmitted to whatever thing,
Yeah. The scary part is they're selling you initially on the fact that this is going to help a guy with Parkinson's walk or talk. And you're like, all right, cool.
That's fine.
But then at some point, like you said, it gives a competitive edge that then people will, the haves and the haves nots. For those that don't, either you have some like, oh, I don't want that intrusion in my body. I could financially afford it. I just don't want it. Or the people that literally can't afford it, even if they did want it, there's going to be this cultural divide that separates them and makes this superior, inferior relationship. Brian's got comments he wants to put on us.
Before I bring Ricky in, Nolette Cruz.
Hey, Nolette. Hey, Ricky. Tell her we said what's up.
Reminds me of the guy who wanted to replace people's trachea with a plastic one and then claims it works when their clients are actually dying. It was from 2011 through 2014, and you could see it on Netflix called Bad Surgeon.
Whoa.
Is that the Surgeon of Death, Brian? Do you happen to know that? Because I've seen stuff about the Surgeon of Death or something like that on Netflix.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, Ricky has.
Yeah, let's take it to our main man.
Ricky.
Okay, Black Mirror. We have to remember Black Mirror, the show where the guy, he committed a crime. They cancel him out of society. Everybody's gray, and where he could rewind and stuff like that. And also, just like, what if an EMP goes off? Are we all fried?
Yeah, so, you know, that's
Man, we all cry. Also, AI. Is this a way for AI to get in our brains? Like, just start
Yeah, but I
connect.
just
Like,
want to point
you
out,
know,
if they could make a microwave bomb, that would melt your organic brain just as much as your electronic brain gets affected by an EMP, right? Like a grenade is the same as an EMP. Mine just splatters like paint versus turns off like a light switch.
Well, what if happening if you had like too many Bluetooth devices and you got the Neuralink in? It's just like, well, I can't quite think as quickly. Have you ever tried that?
Wait, I don't want to get us off rail because also I don't have the science to it, but there is some science backing about the radiation or like the wavelengths that are radiated from AirPods and like Bluetooth specifically that like is a mild microwave.
iPhone 12
specifically. Well, everything that emits some sort of wave is
specifically
not good
Bluetooth
for your body. Think about X-rays, not good.
Yep.
CT scans, MRIs, being in an airplane. I mean, there's all sorts. Nothing. Having a phone in your
down a little
pocket
deeper on that
is
one.
putting off.
That might be
stuff.
after the show.
I mean, that's a whole different thing. But I mean, everything is putting off something nowadays.
He is right.
You shouldn't even stand in front of your microwave when you're microwaving food.
Dude, I think about that all the time. Like, I'm a little chubby, hungry boy. I'm just sitting in front of the microwave like, mac and cheese, mac and cheese, mac and cheese, mac and cheese. And like, you ever sit back and go, how much of this cooked me?
I'm not allowed to be in there, but boy, I'm waiting for something that already is in there.
So as a kid, my mom would be like, don't stand near the microwave. And it's like, I mean, just nowadays in today's society, everything is microwaved. Everything is microwaved. And like, that's no different than an X-ray or anything else ray that isn't good for you.
You know, he's got a good point. There's something to be said about the fact that I got to be worried about an EMP strike that may never happen from Russia. At the same time, every lunch I had this week was microwaved plastic soup from Panera. And you're like, hey, I think not me literally. I'm saying just hypothetically. I'm not that stupid, but I'm just saying we as Americans on average are eating a credit card's worth of plastic a week. And that's because everything's in plastic. Even my gay cup here is plastic. Everything is plastic. So I'm just saying we're doing it. If it isn't the EMP strike that's going to take the chip out of the back of my head, it's going to be the plastic I'm eating. It's going to be the car I'm driving a little too quick, whatever. Hey, Ricky, what's up? I'm sorry.
They've been telling us this since I've been in middle school that like phone in your pocket, the vibration, the wavelengths are killing your titties, you know? And that probably, you know, all these other Bluetooths and stuff probably go into low testosterone showing up on studies nowadays. You know what I mean? Maybe us as men need to go back to our like barbaric days and lower technology. I'm not one to say.
Man, what do you think of that? Getting back to our barbaric days.
Well, I think let's go back to our last episode. I think the swingers are promoting a little more high tea operations there.
All right, let's bring this train to the station and wrap our thoughts up. Before David goes, Doug, I'm going to give you a chance. What do you got for us? Wrapping thoughts on Neuralink.
I think I kind of mentioned all my thoughts. Like, okay, so I wouldn't have thought of it being something to worry about because they advertise it as something to help people with disabilities. But Alex takes it to like the more extreme of what happens then when it's used to connect or share or whatever. Or, you know, what if we're all connected to the point where you can literally say something bad about a person and everyone else kind of like believe it? Like almost what social media is doing today to an extent there. I don't know. If it's used to help people with disabilities, I think it's great.
Yeah,
but if it's gonna try to be involved with a thing that they want to implant in everyone, I have reservations. I don't want Elon Musk messing with my brain more than he already has by buying Twitter.
And yet we log into Instagram every day and let Zucky boy mess with our brain. Brian, what do you got comments wise before we wrap it up?
What's Bboy got to say?
I agree with Doug. And okay, so That was just my final thought. Bboy, he said he has a few opinions or a few comments that I'm like,
all right,
yeah, I can get behind this.
Lay
All right,
it on us.
People thinking some crazy and them wanting to know everything that's going on inside my head, and like, that's kind of like a weird thing to think about. Also, if Neuralink can get a virus, that's a pretty scary thought. And
Shit, we didn't think about that either.
Nolette,
a computer virus being able to affect a human is a scary thought.
Yep.
Facts.
She heard the microwaving was a myth, and I agree. There are waves that exist that do not affect the body, like radio waves and different microwaves,
airplane waves.
No,
Yeah.
airplane is radiation from you being that high in the
So,
atmosphere.
but microwaves excite liquid cells. So, like,
And we are liquid.
yeah. Exactly.
Well,
And
they excite you in like a very like you got to be.
they excite as in terms of giving energy to and warming, right?
You got to
The
be
warming
in the,
effect.
in the space they're doing it at. That's not a
Sure.
I
And
think-
and again, I have enough of an understanding of waves and frequencies to where I am confident. Go home, check out your microwave. The glass has you ever see like a
it's like perforated. It's not completely.
no. What's like the different lens types for sunglasses? You know how like the way it works
Polarized.
is polarization. Thank you.
Yeah,
So the polarization in like a lens will allow either like one type of wavelength, or if it's double polarized, that means it's going both ways and it's stopping both types of waves. If you look at your microwave glass cover, it's literally like the mesh of that desk, which does the audience no good.
Yeah,
it's literally like a polarized,
It's
double
not-
polarized.
It's not completely clear.
It creases both ways, and it should stop a horizontal and a vertical wave. Totally agree. But guess what? There were the same doctors that Nolette's like leaning on. Those same doctors were like, just so you know, cigarettes are great for you. And then they were like, oh shit, yeah, 50 years later, yeah, it killed your grandma.
Same with asbestos.
That's
if you
just
wanna
how
go
that shit
route
goes.
too.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, yeah, they're telling you that because that's what safely sells microwaves. Like, let's acknowledge how the microwave was invented. The gentleman had a chocolate bar in his pocket, and he was getting warm, but the chocolate melted. So at some point, it's like, it probably doesn't. It's not going to have a super effect, but maybe now I need to do some introspective looking at myself because I'm just pressed up against the glass like mac and cheese. What's up?
Angela does not trust it.
Angela.
And
cheers.
I think it's great to be skeptical.
See, I appreciate
It's okay
that.
to be
I can have affection for that.
Yeah.
So all being said, wrapping thoughts are this. I like how Doug kind of presents it. This is an evolution, and it has its benefits and it has its downsides. David has alluded to it throughout the whole dialogue that this was an inevitable, and I don't think we stop it. I think it just is what it is. So the only thing we can do is hope that the people with the right intention are there to help steer it in the right direction. We're in a weird spot. That spot is right now we are literally experiencing the beginning of a whole new evolution of humanity. We've been playing with rocks and smashing sparks to make fire for thousands of years. And for the first time ever, we are becoming the cyborg. Does it end with that? No, I guarantee we're living in a Marvel universe where we download our consciousness into a computer. And is that us? Okay, philosopher. I love philosophy for this reason. We've been wrestling with this since the dawn of time. Is that still you? If it's a carbon copy of your consciousness made by code. Listen, I don't know that answer. Maybe only the creator does. But guess what I could tell you? And the only takeaway from this last segment is we sure as shit are going to find out. Yeah. We're going to find out. Nobody here has the answer. We can have a jolly good time trying to predict as much as we want. But no matter what, only time will tell, and time will certainly tell. This is going to unfold into a weird way. Doug raises great points, like Repo Man. Let's say you need this.
And the Creator show too, by the way, the movie that just came out on Hulu, The Creator, suggested people watch that. It's about AI and society.
Interesting. So that being said, this could easily be a tool to solve your Parkinson's. At the same time, you're a mechanic and you aren't able to afford a $600,000 piece of equipment that was given to you through, through either insurance or payment plan that you no longer can fulfill, and so they just rip it out the back of your head. This inevitably creates the haves and the have-nots. There is an old Justin Timberlake movie, something about time, where like people were literally paid in time.
Yes. Oh my God. It's called like Time or something like that. But I think about that all the time.
So-
It's a society based on like
All
you
the time.
pay
This
for
is his Roman Empire.
No, like so like you're talking about society and the way it is. I love the sci-fi stuff, so I watch
agree.
a lot of these movies. And that movie, it's funny you bring that up. I think about it a lot, honestly. Not necessarily that movie, but like the society getting to the point where you're paying for things with the time on your life. Like you need to buy a soda, it's a minute of your life. You know, you need to pay for a medical expense. It could be a year, 2 years of your life. And you can gain time on your life by doing something in the society. Like what you make for your job pays to your time in life.
Exactly.
And it's like, that is the scariest. Like I brought
Well,
up the
no,
Black
but
Mirror.
again, if you do an
That's a
infraction
scary
against society, if you're doing something that society doesn't agree with, or something like that, they'll just deduct time. They'll just get you that much closer to the end. And in many ways, it's a great dialogue on our relationship with money and currency, but also life itself. Great movie. But the reason I bring it up is
reality.
At the same time, the reason you bring it up is you have people living a lifestyle or a situation where they're forced into situations of disparity, but even more so, they don't have the ability to find solidarity or there's no concrete comfort, safety in a world like this. So you get to have Neuralink, you get to not have Parkinson's insofar as I say you can, whether that's because you're keeping up on your payments or I like what you're saying and you're not having bad ideas that are against my subjective position. So all that being said, who knows where this goes, whether it's good or bad. I think my takeaway is remember this day. This is the end of January 2024. This is the end of the first month. And I do think we are about to experience end times, but we're not allowed to say that. So like with the border hemorrhaging, us going to world wars, and now we're all becoming cyborgs, like this is the end of it all. So grab your popcorn and enjoy the show because it's going to be nothing but entertainment. I don't know, David, wrapping thoughts.
Well, I think on your ending point here, we're in an evolution of time, space, and cultural significance here. I think the Neuralink thing still got some ways to go before it's a news story because the first person did it. How much time in between the first 10 people, first 100 people?
Fair, yeah.
So might take a while. I think the border crisis is, well, that's not getting solved. It's
a bit more pressing.
Yeah, it's a SIF for a reason, and until enough. How many people are in Congress? About 180 people in Congress decide this is a problem I want to solve.
How about the day instead of every free wetback that comes through the border, instead of them getting a free phone, everybody gets a free brain chip. Come on in. And they're like, yeah, I don't think I want to go anymore.
Ooh. Well, don't give Elon Musk too many different ideas.
As a test. Like, you want to come into
Oh, my God.
country?
All right. And we're muting Doug. Go ahead.
But no, I still think I'm still optimistic in the direction we're going. It's not looking good, but boy, we can right this ship. We can go our separate ways. I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue. The Neuralink, here's where I trust government. I think government's
my God,
we're going to shut this shit down. We have the ability to clone people. We're not. Why? A little bit illegal. No one really wants that.
As far as we know.
So we we're gonna have a system here where we're probably gonna shut this down. It's only gonna be for the people with Parkinson's. It's only gonna be for the people who have major disabilities where this can significantly help their lives. But just like Adderall, it's gonna be regulated. Yeah, you might be able to get it on the black market, but it's not readily available.
Man, I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I'm right as well.
Brian, rapid thoughts.
Uh-oh. What do we got in here?
All right, Angela, you made me laugh on that one.
All right.
It was hashtag unmute Doug. hashtag we want Doug.
I like these people.
So
Doug was about to say some cancelable shit, folks.
Ricky said
we should use all the Mexicans as guinea pigs. Yeah, we're gonna mute that.
Sorry, Doug. This is too radical for the show.
Ricky answered the movie you're looking for is called In Time.
Yes,
and
In Time.
It had something to do with it.
Bboy said sounds like Terminator movie all over again. And speaking of Terminator movie,
yes, I'm gonna introduce it. Yeah. All right, can we wrap this
that's
episode
a good
up?
segue. Yeah,
This was a long one. Bboy, perfect transition. This is an episode next week. I hope everybody joins us for. It is one to get excited about. The mother of the Matrix and the Terminator, the proclaimed writer of both stories, is going to be on our show. It is going to be solely an interview with Sophia Stewart. So if you want to do some homework and get prepared for next week, you could go online. This is a very interesting story and definitely a very interesting character. Sophia is an individual that has taken on the position that she is the writer and originator of both The Matrix and The Terminator, two of the biggest franchises in movie and also definitely the biggest franchises in the Warner Brother portfolio. That being said, she's had court cases in the past. It's a whole crazy story to siphon out. Cannot wait for that next episode. So get excited for next Tuesday. We're going live with Sophia. That being said, Brian, if you could bring in Ricky real quick before I totally close the episode out. Ricky, my friend, please, everybody check out Just Another Day TV. Check out my boy Ricky on TikTok. The guy goes live. He's out here grinding all the time. And even Alette, who's in the comments, she's also out here grinding nonstop with my boy Ricky. So, Ricky, where can they find you? Thank you for your time.
TikTok, everything, Just Another Day TV. Appreciate you, Alice. Great show. Man, this show, people, is one of a kind. Don't like it's starting a new wave. We're the new news media. There's a new sports media, the new news media. We're here, people, and the Retake Tech is going to take over very soon. Near you. Don't be scared. Just, listen and be informed.
God bless. I love you, Ricky. I appreciate you guys. Please go check out Just Another TV across the platforms. That being said, I got a list of things, so I make sure I hit them all. If we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you could do to support the show is share this episode. We got a lot of players. I mean, Ricky gave us his whole evening. Even Alette was in the wing ready to join him. David's here every evening. Brian's grinding on the keys. And even Doug. Doug blesses us pretty much every week anymore.
He's trying to cancel himself over here.
Guys. Yeah, he's trying to cancel himself over here.
I love you guys.
So that being said, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and we're not asking for much. The best thing you could do to support this show and give back to the product that you receive for free is to share that link. The algorithm truly benefits from you hitting copy and send it. If you liked it, that means someone like you or someone you know definitely or probably would too. So please share it because that's what best benefits the show. That being said, we are bringing in a whole new aspect to this live show next week, and I cannot be more excited for it. The wheel is finally going to be here. Now, here's the deal. For the wheel to get here, here's the deal about the wheel. The only way it gets here on this show is your involvement. We're going to have a wheel of topics. I got a big wheel that comes, it's on a wheel on wheels. I'm going to bring it in here. You spin the wheel, and it's got all of the topics from you, the listener. So we're going to have a roulette session of the episode where me and David really aren't prepped. It's not something chosen by us. It's chosen by you, the audience member. How do we get you to submit something for the wheel?
we need you to go join us on the Neuro Gym. So on our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com, we need you to go there and join the Neuro Gym, become a member, and there is a feed for you to submit questions or topics onto for you to be featured in our episode and on the wheel for us to randomly bring your topic into the show. So please get excited for that. You can only find that at the Neuro Gym. I also want to reiterate and emphasize Brian and I do a Sunday show, 9 a.m. every Sunday, live. It's a reactions channel to all the craziness of the people online. We're not going to be going live on the Rethink Tank podcast channel anymore. That's just been the first couple of weeks. You got to go find us on Rethink Actions. So we're going to be live this Sunday, but I've been holding your hand, and guess what? The training wheels are coming off. You can find us on Rumble. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on all the others. But the YouTube channel is going back to Rethink Actions. So head on over to that YouTube channel to join us live. But I just want to double down. Finally, Sophia Stewart, big guest coming next week. Guest. Can't wait. You can find all of our content on our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. Don't forget to share, like, dangle the notification bell.
Thing.
And guys, truly appreciate your time. You got to click Ricky. Show Ricky doing that.
One more time.
Ricky's over there fadangling, and we're missing all the fadangles. Exactly. Dangle that. And guys,
ring the bell for the notifications.
We'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.